This podcast is hosted and sponsored by eXp Realty and Mike Nelson, Integrity Home Group.
Hey, welcome everybody today to another one of our episodes for our podcast series, bringing you guys value and content, just a whole bunch of random topics and unique things that are out there. John is a gentleman that I've known for 6-8 years, something like that. We both were kind of at KW together. Probably both started our career about the same time, if I'm not mistaken.
Pretty close, yeah.
Absolutely. So John definitely brings a unique skill set that I think is really cool to talk about today. So John, talk to us a little bit about your background, if you don't mind. Obviously, today we're going to talk a little bit about general contracting, real estate licensing. What are the pros, cons? How did you get to that point? So maybe just kind of open it up. John, thanks for coming on today, and excited to hear a little bit about your journey and also, some real estate nuggets, because I know you got a lot of expertise.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that very much. And I always had a good time talking with you. That's probably one of our problems. We had too much fun talking. We did start in a similar time. I kind of veered a different direction than you did, but we did both start at KW, which was a wonderful format to start in because it was very supportive and helpful. But my background was more construction to start with. I'd done sales for who knows how many years, and I worked as a firefighter and EMS and all those kind of fun things. And when I moved back to Colorado in 2014, I knew a bunch of people that were in real estate, and they asked me if I wanted to come check it out. And one thing led to another. I ended up getting my license and having some fun, and I've never regretted that. The one thing that I wasn't planning on was going back into construction. That happened by accident.
Yeah, destiny. Sometimes things are meant to be, right?
Oh yeah. And it was primarily because I've been licensed as a general contractor off and on for most of my life. I have a degree in design, and that's kind of what led to it. And when I came back and I was doing the real estate, I had been connected through KW with some investors out of California that had some properties here. And they needed somebody to start preparing those properties for sale because they've been renting them out for a few years. And so I said, well, I can do both. Let's see what I can do. And I started getting them subs in there and trying to get people working on them and everything else. And it just got to be such a hassle trying to get people in there that I was talking to my wife, and I said, it'd be just as easy to go get my license again and do it that way. And she says, well, it's probably what you're going to have to do because you can't get anything done without that. So I ended up going back and renewing my license, and I used the national testing system, which is a lot more efficient than the old systems back when I first did this. Because back then you had to test in every city and locale that you worked. And so that was just a nightmare. So then usually you were cubbyholed to just a few communities that you actually had licensing in.
Yeah, it was very
there was no statewide, there still isn't any statewide general contracting license.
Oh, really?
So,
okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah. But it kind of took off from there. I just because I knew so many people in the industry, I really enjoyed the real estate side of things. I always had fun with that. And it was always a challenge because it always kept me on my toes, kept me thinking ahead. You know exactly how it is. You have to be looking down the street before you can even consider doing anything. So you better be planning ahead. So on the contracting side, that kind of just came at me. There was opportunity there. And so we ended up growing the construction side and still doing the real estate. So I had to wear two hats all the time, and I still do. So it was very interesting. It has grown to the point now, and through COVID, that it was a real challenge to keep both pieces moving at all. So it made sense to maintain my licensing in both and focus on what I could get to. And so that's why I still do both. But it is a challenge to maintain all that licensing because now we're commercially licensed on the construction side. We decided to take some more of that on. And then I also, when I left KW, I went ahead and got my brokerage license because it made sense. I figured, well, if I grow the real estate side, I can add some people and we can do it the right way. So I've maintained that, but on the real estate side, I've only been me because it takes effort to grow an office correctly.
Yeah.
If I can't focus 100% on that piece, I'm going to be very careful about it. For
And
the
you've always
construction,
you've always been really smart and savvy about, finding that one focus and doing
Mhm.
it at 100% until you master it or you leverage it out to a point that you can build something else, instead of being what most agents do is they scatter seed across the wind and they pick and choose different seeds on a daily basis, as opposed to really just tuning in into one thing. So
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly, and that's I see that all the time, and you see it too. I've noticed how much it's changed over the last 7-8 years. Just the industry. I mean,
yeah,
construction industry and real estate. Real estate has really changed. So it takes a very forward thinker to stay ahead of the curve and figure out what needs to be done next before it needs to be done.
yeah,
And you're
absolutely.
really good at that.
Yeah,
You. I know you're really good about putting people in the right places to support you and to fill roles so that you can stay focused on what you have to do down the road, and they keep all the wheels on the bus and they just keep it
absolutely.
rolling. You got a great team.
Yeah, thank you
Um,
very much for that. I appreciate
yeah,
that.
well, and I'm watching you guys grow, and that's fun. I love to watch, even in this environment. I'm watching you guys grow because I talk to people all the time. They're like, "Well, why are you still doing that?" It's like, "Well, I can.
Yeah,
I can still do real estate." Well, doesn't it drive you crazy? Well, of course it does. It's a tough business to be in right now. But I also have another thing I do too. So
yeah.
between the two, I do just fine.
Absolutely. Why don't you talk to me, for the agents that are watching this, talk to me about some of the benefits maybe of that process that you went through and the realizations of having both license. So if an agent was interested in being like, there's always people out there that are similar to us and in our shoes that may be a general contractor wanting to get a real estate license, right? Or vice versa. So maybe talk to them a little bit about what you would say are the pros and maybe some of the cons to that, to going down that path.
Sure. The number one thing is, if you have not been in real estate before, you better get in with a good group. You need to learn the ins and outs. Don't try to do it by yourself. If you want, you need guidance. It's not as simple as people make it sound by any means. There's a lot of legal issues. There's a lot of representation issues. There's a lot of things you need to know, and you need to use the people that know how to do it. If you don't, you're going to flounder and you're going to get in trouble. So one of the things that several of my friends mentioned to me when I first started doing it was, go to somebody like KW who has the setup. They have everything there. And now there's other companies like your company that have a lot. They've taken that to a new level. So it's very important that you reach out and find good mentors and good people to work with that can teach you how the systems work. Because if you don't, you're going to have problems. It's not a simple task.
Absolutely. It slows your roll. Yeah, for sure. It
Oh
takes
yeah,
you
big time.
into production. Yeah.
And then the other part of that is if you have a background in one or the other, and you want to reach out and stretch out a little bit into to both of them, you have to make sure you pay attention to what you're focused on that day. See, I still do real estate and I still do construction. So I literally on my schedule have to pull those two pieces apart. And because of legal issues with real estate, I actually tell people that, okay, I'm taking off my construction hat, putting on my real estate hat, so that when we have those conversations, they know I'm talking to them from two different places.
Oh,
But
that's
you have to
smart.
be careful of what you actually have as an expertise in.
Yeah.
So that's very critical. And on the business side, the one thing I didn't do that I will be changing is I have to separate the legal structure of the real estate and the construction, because the licensing rules on real estate don't allow me to intermingle those two pieces. So that's one of the things I have to pull. They have to be separate legal entities, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. But protect yourself, learn the rules, know what you're doing, and pay attention. Once you start getting good at paying attention to what's going on and learning, then you can start stretching yourself out. Then you can start looking at those things that you like to do. Do you like to do commercial? Do you like to work with veterans? Do you like to work, there's so many different facets that you can focus on and get really good at. And it's better to get really good at one thing at least to start with.
Yeah.
Stay focused.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know one thing that I've always appreciated about you, and, have no problem with consulting and seeking your guidance on occasion, is around business structures and policies, and just you're a business owner, right? That is one thing a lot of real estate agents aren't, right? They're salespeople, but they're not business owners. And so, as you alluded to, there's some complexities to your legal structure and things like that as you dive into these other entities or these other side businesses, that you have to make sure that you've done your research and your due diligence so you don't get hit later by the department regulations, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. And that could be a lot of trouble you could get into not meaning to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's
the business structure. You need to really pay attention to what is required first, and then you need to pay attention to where you want to go.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think that's the structure, and having that vision, and asking mentors, and asking other seasoned people, and asking managing brokers, heck, even contemplating having conversations with department regulations. And the word I want to get out of this a little bit too is, real estate agents are notorious for playing the dumb card, and they can get away with it most of the times. But when you're talking legal entity type stuff with department of regulations, the dumb card doesn't work so well with that.
Yeah, once you're the boss or you're the owner, then it's a whole nother animal. Yeah, you can't plead ignorance. It doesn't work.
Yeah, you can play the dumb card agent to agent on offers and stuff like that sometimes, but you're not going to play the dumb card well in a legal forum.
No, not at all. You better be paying attention. And one of the things I suggest, and you do this already, is you put a structure together for your new people. You have an outline. This is where you start. This is what you do next. This is what we have for you. This is how we're going to do this so that you can be successful. But you also keep it so that it can flex a little bit, back and forth, and do these things. And that's what's really important about being a leader, especially in real estate, because it is an ever-evolving industry that we have to pay attention to. And if we're not paying attention to, you're going to get run over. Days of some, these people, these agents that have been doing it 20 years and have maybe done 5 or 6 deals in that 20 years, and they're always claiming, well, I've been doing this 20. Well, you haven't. Okay, you've been a licensed agent for 20 years, but you haven't been doing this for 20 years. There's a big difference. And the days of that are kind of starting to fade away. You can't really, that just doesn't work anymore. You got to put the effort in.
Yeah, there's so much change. There's so much going on in our industry, and more today than ever. I think, of course, I haven't been around in real estate for 100 years, but I got to believe today is constant change between technology, between rules and regulations, between pushing the needles on expansions and teams, and you name it, right? It's a full-time job, even for Department of Regulations, just to keep up with the vast amounts of change going on in our industry.
Yeah, and they're always 2 years behind.
Yeah.
Regulations, they have, that's just the nature of the business. And the other piece is the type of competition we have to compete with when it comes to business generation, lead generation, that kind of stuff. That's a challenge. You got companies out there that are trying to save people money, but they're not exactly serving their clientele as well as they should be served. And that's all I'm going to say about that. You know what I mean? It's we have to answer a lot of questions sometimes that we didn't have to answer before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why shouldn't I use them, or why shouldn't I do this? Well, you want an advocate on your side. You want somebody that's going to be right there to take care of you, and that's paying attention to what's happening today.
Absolutely.
What could be happening in our market, just and they're servicing your system or your project or your contract from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely, John. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close this up, and just these quick 10, 15-minute videos, and your words of wisdom are always important to me. I do have a lot of respect for you and the business that you run, my friend. John is located in the Firestone market today. He focuses in on Denver and some other areas. So as we always say we'll do, we will put this post out there for him, and we will tag him in it in our programs. And so if you have any questions, just like John and I've talked to any of our guests that we bring on here, they're always open to having conversations about anything, you name it, right? They are such giving people that John can answer anything, or if he can't answer it, he'll give you the resource to where it is. I'm also the same way. In my world, you can just go to mycalendly.com/Mike Nelson IHG and schedule an appointment with me. If you want to talk about anything, can be anything related to anything, happy to do that. John's a giving guy, and he will do the same thing. So John, again, appreciate you, my friend. I know it's been a couple months since we've had a chance to get down and talk. I appreciate the time that we got to spend today, and You're one of the good guys in this business, and I really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too, and thank you for asking me to come and join you. We'll have to get together soon and have a cup of coffee or something.
Yeah, I agree, my friend. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.